Hi, I'm Emile Roy-Foster. I'm the general manager here at Pelican. Today I'd like to show you how to be a little bit more comfortable handling, shucking, and plating these beautiful oysters. If you've ever seen an experienced oyster shucker in action, it can be a fairly intimidating process. It's this sort of aggressive, fast-moving motion. Today I want to show you that it doesn't have to be that way. You may get there at one point, but for today, let's slow it down a little bit. Let's show you the step-by-step. Let's get you comfortable. So we're going to take a beautiful Irish point oyster here. First step is always to clean your oysters. You don't have to do it in a fancy bucket of water like me. You can just spray them down with your kitchen hose. But I will just be doing a little dunk here. So I'm just going to dunk them, rinse them off, trying to get those shell fragments off, trying to get any dirt that's on there off. So we've got a nice clean oyster here and a nice clean rag. What we want to do is sort of fold the rag over the oyster, and that serves two purposes. One, to keep the oyster nice and stable while we get in there and shuck it open. Second, it does act as a way to protect our hand should the knife slip. You know, the way that I'm going to show you how to shuck an oyster, you shouldn't be worrying too much about the knife coming through. I think that's the thing I want to shut down today, is that it can be safe, it can be easy. So once we've got that oyster in place there, we're going to take our oyster shucker. This is your oyster shucker. We sell them here in the market. This is actually a great shucker. Wooden handle to grab on. It's got a nice guard here to stop pretty much just your finger from rubbing against any shells. And it's a nice, super sharp blade with a nice point, which really, really helps shucking and then detaching the oysters from the shell. And it's branded. And we've got a sort of crux in the back of the oyster. So I think where a lot of people go wrong is once they get their knife in that crux, they're really dead set on pushing really hard forward. That's where the slips happen. That's where the mistakes happen. So let's be very gentle getting the sharp point in there. It's kind of a wiggling motion. We just want to find that crux. If you get it in there correctly, you should be able to take your hand right off of the shucker. So again, we're not pushing forward right into our hand. We're pushing slightly down, just getting the tip in there nice and easy. Now that it's in, we do want to put a little bit of pressure, but more downwards, less towards the hand. And once you have that shucker nice and steady in there, it's really just a flick of the wrist forward. So like you're throttling a motorcycle, you're just going to kind of spin that wrist forward. And if you look there, we've got a bit of separation in our oyster now. I'll usually put my thumb in there just to kind of keep that access point available to me. But it's pretty much just sitting there ready to be cut. The next part is all about slicing this muscle here. So there's a muscle that runs from the top to the bottom of the oyster there. What we're trying to do with this next part is we're really trying to run the sharp blade of the knife along the top of the oyster. Obviously inside so that we can slice the muscle, but just to give you a quick representation, it's going to be a sort of sliding motion like this. And we're going to put a lot of pressure upwards so that we don't damage the meat when we're doing that. So we're going to get that crux slightly open again. I'll put my thumb in it just so it holds open. And then I'm going to apply pressure upwards with the knife. And in one motion, I'm just going to kind of push forward. So we go like that. There we've got our oyster open. Pretty minimal amount of oyster left on the top shell, so we did a pretty good job slicing it there. So we've got that muscle right here. You can see it's sort of more of a thick white. It's running right through the oyster, so we do have to detach from the bottom as well. So to do that, we're going to do the exact same kind of thing we did with the top, where we're running that sharp blade against the oyster, but just at that muscle. So we're going to kind of come like this and just push down. So now the oyster is fully detached from the shell. You can see it's nice and fluid there. You can serve the oyster like this. Personally, I like what I've been told is the French technique, where you flip the oyster. See? You flip the oyster. And that exposes the nice clean belly. If you've made any mistakes on the bottom, you've poked the belly, you've cut it, whatever, it sort of hides those. And I just think it's a much nicer presentation. Then we're just going to put that down on the plate here. Crushed ice is not in a lot of households, and it's often something we forget about when we're shucking oysters. So I did just do up a plate of regular rice here. Not quite as nice looking, but it is an option because you do always need something for that sort of convex shape of the oyster to sit in, just like that. And yeah, that's pretty much how you shuck an oyster. We'll do up a whole plate for you next.
You're like the sunshine shining